My name is Tony Otoa, and I am the co-founder of Ubuntu Leadership Safari. I'm very excited to really, come out here and speak about something that I'm passionate about. Growing up as a kid, I was always that naughty kid. The ones who have the cliques, huh? And I do not know how many times I was expelled from the different schools because of the cliques. But there were some good cliques, which were business-oriented cliques, and there were some which were really naughty cliques. But you see, in the process of growth, you always try to understand that you need a community where you fit in. And that was my story. But what is a community? And I wanted to really focus on defining what a community is. And in defining what a community is, many of us get confused about what we see ourselves in this bigger, larger group of people. When I ask anyone who listens into the 5 a.m. club, how many of you listen into the 5 a.m. reflections every morning? Okay, I know many of you listen into the recordings because you are 7 a.m. people. But when you ask many of these people why they do that, they say it's because of their love for belonging, or their love to belong to something that they feel passionate about. But not only something that they feel passionate about, but something that is pushing them to another level in terms of growth. How you define yourself in the community, how you represent yourself in a community is what matters. Now, I'll just start off, of course, with the strong reasons that a lot of the guys give us. Many of them will tell us it's shared wisdom. When we come together as Ubuntu Leadership Safari, it's about sharing wisdom. It's not about who is the brightest guy in the room. It's about everyone being at the same level and listening to the other or the other story. Our story is about experiences, not really about where you studied, how you studied, or who your mother and father are, but your experiences. And the beauty about life is that the best lessons are taken from experiences. Anything that will always be memorable is out of an experience. And when we started the 5 a.m. club and reflections, we were thinking, how do we make people get into an experience that makes them feel fulfilled as a way of starting their day? Now, that just grew into craziness. So it's shared wisdom, the support system. We have many people who have become mentors. You find someone coming onto the forum and talking about financial intelligence, and then you have another guy who's shy who just says, bro, I don't know much about financial intelligence, but what is it? And for free, you are getting information and knowledge for nothing. I don't have to go to a proper lawyer like Jackie for legal advice, where I would be ending up paying her $1,000 for just 15 minutes. I can actually talk to Tony Otoa, who will look at ChatGPT or ChatGPT. But I'm joking. But there's so many great people on the forum who can actually provide that advice. But also the cultural exchange. The cultural exchange that happens in Ubuntu is quite amazing. The number of requests we've got from people in the diaspora saying, come and speak to us. You'll find that people just want you to just speak about this experience that we ignore and take for granted in Uganda. Experience. Very, very valuable. So Ubuntu Leadership Safari, and what's our story? So what we normally do is we have our talks. Very similar to this. You have about 100 people or more in a room, and we're listening into mentors who you would not have been able to interact with. From the 5 a.m. reflections that we do every day for 15 minutes, by the way, we have the Community Fridays, where anyone within the community comes on to speak about their life experiences and share knowledge with the group. We are in the age of social media, where many communities are being formed every single day. I can tell you for a fact that if you went on Twitter today, there's a community of people who love violence. There's a community, and they know themselves, by the way. When they see something funny, the first thing they'll say is, bro, okarabye. And then the bro is like, chichi, soko mbulire. And then they will mess up your day. If you're not intentional, they will really mess up your day. There's a community of amazing people as well. People who look out for the good, who look out for advice, who look out for great things that support them in their personal life journey. That is the community that we talk about in the age of social media. So what community are you on? And that's the question I'll leave with you. But if you look at the statistics of the internet, or if you look at social media usage around the world, the statistics are mind-boggling. If you look at the statistics here, you will notice that a lot of what we're doing today is not for us, the old guys above 40. Most of it is for the guys below 30. So how are we positioning them? And when we are talking about communities, how are we making these communities worthwhile for them? You know, I was talking to a group of young guys, and they were saying, you know, nowadays when they come to a job, they prefer a job that has vibes. I said, vibes? In my time, you needed a job for money, not vibes. But today, it's vibes and mashallah. And in that community of those young people, you can't ignore them because they're the majority. So how do you solution for them? And that's about going into their community to understand them and then create a solution. So those statistics for me are very interesting and very, very great to go by in terms of how we use social media. But what is it that we are also missing out of online communities? They're great. I saw people here who I know on social media, and when I see them, I feel like I know them. When he's talking about his financial stuff, I'm like, I know this guy. But I'll be honest with you, it's my first time I'm seeing him. So there's something, I mean, bro, you cannot substitute a hug. There's the ripple effect of what a great community can do for the greater good. One person touches another person. One person feeds on another person. And that's the beauty about life. You know, nowadays at Ubuntu, when we're signing off, we say, share this with your friends, your family, and your enemies. And why do we talk about enemies? Because enemies need to grow too, you know. But that's the beauty about, you know, the ripple effect of, you know, social media. Now, I just want us to dive into a few things that I think are very important when we're dealing with community. And that's really about the areas to develop. And a lot of these come out of very interesting norms that we have formed out of, you know, our lifestyles or what we have grown seeing. The first one, of course, is the idea of inclusion, of diversity, desire to contribute, attitudes towards risk, and of course, open dialogue. Now, when we dive into this more in a community, before people get into communities or they try to engage with communities, the first thing they'll ask is, you know, can or may I be myself? Will they accept me the way I am? I am a happy guy. You know, sometimes you get into a community. I'm a yellow, if you know, character-wise or personality tests. And I struggle around blues who are very serious because they are overly serious. So the question is, can I be myself? Now, when we move on, the other one is, do I contribute to the success of others? The reason why most of us fear to dive into communities is because we're thinking, I might not be able to contribute, so it's a job way. But we forget that the truth is, what we see as theirs can actually be ours if we get ourselves opened up to that conversation. And then, of course, the other one is, do I contribute to this? Can I talk about anything? Can I talk about anything without them judging me, without me feeling indifferent about myself? And then, of course, is it okay to make mistakes? I always say at Ubuntu, failure is the best school fees you'll ever pay for your personal growth. As long as you fail and you can get up, that's what's most important. But many of us fear to fail. And I always say fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear. F, false. E, evidence. A, appearing R, real. We just fear. The other thing is the comfort zone. And this is really where I want to dive into the fear as I conclude. The comfort zone is really that place where we all feel comfortable. How are you? What's your? Huh? How is business? Pola tugezako. How is your mother? Fair. Ask a Nigerian, how is your business? My brother, it's going crazy. We are consuming the world. In fact, the world is not ready for us. And then you ask him, okay, so what are your numbers? He says, well, we're just about to start. So it's really about how you show up. Now, the comfort zone, it's really about getting out of the comfort zone. And getting out of the comfort zone will, of course, you know, you'll find yourself, you know, getting into the learning zone. And the learning zone is that place where you start stretching yourself. And then, of course, outside, you know, there's a lot of chaos, uncertainty, fear, panic. You know, oh, what is going to happen? What's going to happen? But the truth is, it will happen anyway if it's going to happen. How prepared are you for when it happens? And that's a very important question. Finally, as I just come to the conclusion of this, I think for me it's really about courage. We were speaking about courage at Ubuntu the whole of this week. It was our main focus area. And in speaking about courage, we were saying, what is it that we are scared of? And by the way, if you think about the things that scare you, the things that were instilled in you as a child, probably. You remember when that mother would say, or that random auntie would say, you won't be the greatest guy, you're just too stubborn. And you remember the day, the time, the face, the feeling. That all comes out of lacking courage. Now, courage is not really the absence of, fear. It's really having the ability to, feel what, what I feel and still do what is right. And finally, it's also really about, creating confidence where we need, strategies to get past that fear, and these are some of the strategies. Fear of the messy unknown, fear of being judged, fear of the first step, and finally, of course, fear of losing control. But interestingly, when we talk about this, what is also very interesting is that fearful people offend others. Have you ever met that crazy friend who you knew from school, and you tell him about this crazy business idea? The first thing is like, but Otoa, we should drink together. I don't think you can handle. And what happens? You are easily offended because fearful people offend others. We talk about OQP at Ubuntu, only quality people. The moment you have yourself around only quality people, you become what it is to become great. In this last slide, I show you what it means to be around only quality people. That is me at the top. I like being around quality people. I end up looking cool. I don't know who's down here who ends up being around sad, miserable people and ends up being sad as well. It's your choice. But the right community is what you need to thrive and be the best that you can be. Thank you very much.